"Mom is coming here tomorrow," Simon said. "What do you mean, coming?" I asked. "It means we're going to live together," he replied.
What?
"But what about your father's house? There are so many things that need to be done, like selling it or demolishing it, right?" I panicked when my husband suddenly suggested living together with his mom, trying to explain how unrealistic it was. However, he was determined. "That's why Mom is coming here first while we proceed with those arrangements. We decided last night after discussing it." That's absurd. I felt dizzy. Why does my husband always decide things on his own? "And what about your mother's room?" "We don't have a spare room," I said. "Then clear out your room by tomorrow," he demanded. "Don't be so unreasonable. This is our home. Why are you trying to let your mother live here without asking?" "Shut up. I pay the $1,000 rent, so just do as I say. My name is Tanya, and I'm 34 years old. I run a general store. My store is modestly situated on the outskirts of town and operates with the support of local regular customers. This small shop has a homey atmosphere, creating a deep bond between the staff and the customers. I'm very comfortable with the warm and intimate atmosphere of the current shop, and I have no intention of expanding it significantly. I'm satisfied with this scale and want to maintain it as it is. On the other hand, my husband Simon is always ambitious, always trying something new. He always sets high goals, and his proactive attitude sometimes overwhelms those around him. Our personalities are very different, which often surprises our friends as to why our relationship works so well. However, I feel that the contrast in our personalities actually complements and functions well together. "Hey, are you still cleaning? We have plans this afternoon. Will you make it on time? Don't you have other things to do? The departure time is approaching, you know." As usual, Simon couldn't hide his frustration when things didn't go according to plan. "Come on, don't worry so much. It's a relaxing family day out today, so a little delay won't hurt," I calmly replied. "What are you talking about? You always move at your own pace too much. What tasks are still left?" Simon pressed further. "Could you please pack our daughter's things in her usual bag then?" I asked gently. "Fine. Really, you," he said with a wry smile as he went to get our daughter's belongings. Watching his retreating figure, I secretly smiled. My husband, who prioritizes efficiency, gets irritated when I work at a relaxed pace, but this ultimately helps me. He might think he's taking care of me, but in reality, I'm skillfully managing him. His tendency to rush things is significantly influenced by his job and sales at an IT company. In this industry, a moment's delay could give competitors a significant advantage, so he's always chasing results and has very little tolerance for minor mistakes. As a result, he manages himself with a strict eye in his daily work, constantly working under pressure to achieve team goals. While our relationship as a couple is smooth, if we were to work together, our different work styles could be a significant barrier. I feel that my relaxed working style suits me, and I wouldn't function well in an environment that demands the speed that my husband does. In this regard, my father would be a better partner for my husband than I would. My father has been passionate about automobiles since he was young and has built a career as a craftsman in that field. He owns a small building in the town center, where he runs an automobile-related business. When my husband and I first considered marriage, I brought him to first meet my father. That day, they got so caught up talking about work rather than our marriage. That event was 3 years ago, and the memory of that day is still vivid in my mind. "Hey Dad, I've brought Simon along," I said when we arrived. Just a minute," my father responded. When we arrived home, my father was working on a car and was covered in oil. It was the first time Simon had encountered this scene, and he was a bit overwhelmed by the atmosphere of our home. Our house also serves as my father's auto shop, with many cars neatly arranged for sale on the property, and a two-story building standing in one corner. The first floor of the building is used as an office and repair area, and the upper floor houses the living space. My mother is inside, so go ahead and enter. I urged my husband. "Wait for me, I'll be right there," my father said, appearing at the entrance of the garage and wiping his hands with a blackened work towel. He then paused, slowly walked towards Simon and me, and greeted us with a firm gaze. His expression seemed ready to welcome a new member to the family. Since the entrance to our house is at the back of the building, we had to head outside first. Once outside, the cars lined up for sale came into view again. Wow, this is incredible. To have such a wonderful car dealership in the city center? You bought the land and building too, right? It must have been a lot of hard work and effort. Simon remarked admiringly to my father. Actually, it naturally happened as I worked with passion on cars. I acquired the land and building quite a long time ago, before prices soared. My father began to explain. His words were tinged with years of experience and solid confidence. "It's really impressive. That's forward-thinking action. Have there been any changes in car sales?" Simon inquired with keen interest. "Yes, lately, cars for collectors sell well. The value of old models has skyrocketed. Sure, there are many stylishly designed cars, but I never imagined when I was young that people would buy cars at high prices just to look at them and not drive them on the roads," my father explained. His voice conveyed a complex mix of emotions, blending adaptation to changes in the industry. "I see. That's a significant change," Simon responded. He was clearly impressed. Simon was very interested in my father's stories and actively bombarded him with questions. However, my father did not seem to mind, and he answered politely, as if dealing with a customer. From this conversation, it was clear that their professional interests and passions aligned. It seems that my father also easily switches on when it comes to work. My mother and I are not very knowledgeable about cars, so he must be pleased that Simon shows such an interest. I know all too well that once my father and husband start talking, there's no stopping them. While the two of them were engrossed in conversation, I went up the stairs at the back of the building and entered the room alone. After explaining the situation to my mother, we watched my husband and father chatting happily from the window and couldn't help but laugh. It's amazing they got along so well the first time they met. Really, he might become just like your father in the future. Ahaha. You'll have to keep an eye on that. This is a fond memory from when we had our marriage greetings. We currently live in the residential space above the car shop that my father used to run. Recently, having turned 65, my father closed the car shop and moved to the countryside with my mother. After working nearly 40 years in the city center, they plan to enjoy a rural life together. Thanks to the success of the car shop, my father has enough funds to not worry about future living expenses and decided to semi-retire. When my father decided to move, the family home was left vacant, and he suggested we might live there. Dad has offered us the house to use. What do you think? A. Are you going to sell the house or rent it out? Well, according to Dad, dealing with selling or renting out the house is too much hassle. So if we live there, he plans to eventually pass it on to us. So you mean to inherit the house and land? That's right. The whole process is just too much hassle for him. He's been focused on his work for 40 years and doesn't want any more complications. I see. Maybe him giving you the house now is part of decluttering his life, to not make it too burdensome for him. So how much is the rent? The rent is $1,000. That house was a spacious 3-bedroom, right? For $1,000, that's a pretty good deal. It's close to the city center and has good access to the station. Since Noelle is still a baby, maybe we should consider moving. Hearing that the rent was $1,000, my husband became more open to the idea of moving. My husband has a somewhat high self-esteem. I was concerned that living in my family home might make him feel dependent on my parents, and he might refuse to move. However, once the move was settled, I felt relieved. This allowed my parents to make their decision to move to the suburbs with peace of mind, resulting in a good outcome for everyone. But my husband presented one condition. I'm fine with moving, but I will pay the $1,000 rent myself. It's a decision I make as a man. Yes, I understand. Thank you, I replied. My husband was struggling to accept the idea of relying on my parents. Even though our finances were combined, he insisted on paying the rent himself. His unnecessary pride in such situations could be troublesome. As a result, we ended up living closer to the city center, and our life significantly improved. I was looking forward to more comfortable days ahead. However, since moving into the family home, my mother-in-law began visiting frequently, often staying over. It was natural for her to be interested now that her son and his wife had moved into a new home. But as her visits became weekly, it increasingly became a problem for me. Mother-in-law, you've been coming here almost every week recently, haven't you? You stay over and then go out by yourself? But maybe next time we could go out together, I suggested. Oh, don't worry about me. I want to enjoy some drinks with my friends, and they would feel awkward around you two, she replied. I felt she could be more considerate. Every week when she visited, I found it hard to relax. Lately, going to the theater has become her hobby, and she seems to enjoy it weekly with her friends. After the show, they discuss their thoughts at a restaurant. Since the theater is in the city center, she's essentially using our home as a place to stay. It's really okay, you don't need to worry, she would say. But then, emerging from a long bath, she'd casually eat the expensive ice cream I had bought as a little treat for myself. It was just a small indulgence for me, and I wished she would consider that. If she was worried about how her son was living or wanted to see her grandson, I could understand. But if she is using our house as a place to stay for her personal leisure, I find it hard to accept. So I brought up my mother-in-law's visits to my husband, and surprisingly, he supported her. Mom helps with the housework and even supports us with the kids. Can't you even allow her to go see a play for her hobby? No, I do appreciate the help she provides. But it's honestly exhausting when she comes over frequently without any real need. What? You're not grateful? If you have complaints, you should be perfect in housework, childcare, and your job, so there's nothing to criticize. It was clear that my husband didn't understand my feelings at all. He believed in voicing complaints only after achieving perfect results. This might be appropriate in a workplace, but applying it to family issues meant my feelings of distress were being ignored. Everyone has their limits of tolerance. Honestly, I think my mother-in-law's behavior is a bit unreasonable, even by general standards. The conversation made it clear that expecting my husband to side with me was unlikely. However, I couldn't just let it go. Ultimately, I decided to seek help from a specific person. As a result, my mother-in-law suddenly stopped coming over. Lately, Mom hasn't shown up at all, has she? My husband noted. Really? I replied. Did something happen? Maybe something did. I'm not sure of the reason. I responded to my husband's inquiries with a calm smile. The reason my mother-in-law stopped her visits was because my father-in-law spoke to her. He was a kind and courteous man, so I called him, explained the situation, and asked for help. My husband still doesn't know the real reason behind her cessation of visits, and my mother-in-law has kept that fact hidden. This way, our relationship as a couple wouldn't deteriorate. I'm truly grateful to my father-in-law. However, within a year, he passed away suddenly due to illness, and I was deeply saddened by the loss. I have been receiving help for issues with my husband and mother-in-law for nearly 5 years since we got married. My father-in-law was only 62 years old, and I had plans to repay him for his kindness. However, he passed away before I ever had the chance. At the funeral, while enduring regrets and sadness, I bid my last farewell to my father-in-law. After the ceremony, my daughter and I returned home first. Despite the great debt of gratitude I owed, I felt it was not right for me to stay with my mother-in-law and husband at my in-laws' house. It seemed that neither my husband nor my mother-in-law wanted that either, so I came back home with my daughter. However, the next night, my husband came home and made an unbelievable statement. "Mom is coming here starting tomorrow." Simon said. "What do you mean, coming?" I asked. "It means we're going to live together," he replied. "What? But what about your father's house? There are so many things that need to be done, like selling it or demolishing it." "Right." I panicked when my husband suddenly suggested living together, trying to explain how unrealistic it was. However, he was determined. "That's why Mom is coming here first while we proceed with those arrangements. We decided last night after discussing it." That's absurd. I felt dizzy. Why does Simon always decide things on his own? "And what about your mother's room?" "We don't have a spare room," I said. "Then clear out your room by tomorrow," he demanded. "Don't be so unreasonable. This is our home. Why are you trying to let your mother live here without asking?" "Shut up. I pay the $1,000 rent, so just do as I say." "Are you kidding me? This isn't a joke." I had always avoided direct confrontation with Simon, who is stubborn and unyielding in his views, and instead found ways to skillfully manage his actions and thoughts. However, with the imminent start of life with my mother-in-law tomorrow, there will no longer be time to avoid conflict or subtly influence the situation. Simon seems to think only of the benefits of having another person to help with housework and childcare, completely disregarding my feelings. But it's too domineering for him to expect me to give up my private space for my mother-in-law. Moreover, while our conversation was still unresolved, Simon hurried off to take a bath. Any resistance from me seemed futile. I went to my workroom and decided to prepare a sleeping arrangement for my mother-in-law for the time being. The next day, my mother-in-law arrived, dragging a large suitcase. Usually I don't only bring one, but it's really tough to travel this far with so much luggage, she said. Since Simon was at work, I greeted her alone. The weight of her luggage must have been a considerable burden for her. She was sweaty and appeared exhausted. However, there was no sign of sadness for her husband, who had passed away just a few days ago. Had she already recovered? Or did she not feel sad at all? "Hey, isn't it cleared yet?" "I'm sorry. I was told last night by my husband to clear out the room." "Really useless, aren't you? Hurry up and clear it. Also, prepare some cold milk and cake." There was no cake in the fridge. When I said I would go out to buy some, my mother-in-law sighed. "Oh, what kind of housewife are you? Hurry up. Why do I have to be spoken to like this?" The thought of enduring days like this weighed heavily on me. But this was just the beginning. That evening, when Simon came home, the four of us were having dinner, and my mother-in-law escalated her attacks on me. "I haven't been here in a year, but it's still a nice house," she commented. "Yeah, Mom, why did you suddenly stop coming?" Simon asked. "Your father scolded me. He told me not to visit your place so often. He said it was because Tanya was feeling burdened." "Well, that sounds like Dad. Really, you didn't need to worry about it." "Actually, it wasn't your father who was considerate. It seems Tanya asked him to intervene. She told him she was bothered by my visits and asked a favor from him," my mother-in-law suddenly claimed, leaving me speechless. I had indeed sought help from my father-in-law. Of course, I hadn't been rude. I had merely suggested subtly that she should limit her frequent visits. My mother-in-law seemed to be exaggerating the situation, making herself out to be a victim. "Hey, did you really say that?" "Tanya, I'm sorry. I had no idea I was such a burden. We'll be living together for a long time now. Is that okay?" My mother-in-law was smiling, but her eyes were hiding anger. It seemed she resented me for telling on her to my father-in-law. Her gaze clearly accused me. "Hey, answer me. Did you really say that?" "No, I didn't say it like that, but..." "Oh, is that so?" "My father said so. Are you saying he exaggerated the story, or are you implying Mom's lying?" "No, that's not what I meant." "But you did say it, right? Really? Doing things behind the scenes is sneaky. Now that we're living together, you should properly apologize to Mom." "Why should it be normal for me to apologize? That's ridiculous." "Mom, I'm sorry. It's my fault. I'll make sure she understands." I was completely made out to be the villain and pressured into apologizing, which was truly humiliating. This incident isolated me within my family, creating a 2-against-1 dynamic. The next day, blatant mistreatment by my mother-in-law began. In the morning, I made lunch for both my husband and me, but I found mine in the trash. When I returned home in the evening, my mother-in-law had prepared dinner, but nothing was set aside for me. Although my husband was aware of her actions, he fully supported his mother, only shrugging in response. I have been without support from anyone for a week now, and I can't even ask my father-in-law for help anymore. This obvious harassment has taken a significant mental toll on me. Some people endure such situations for years, even decades, but it seems I don't have the strength to bear it. When I saw my own limits, I found myself in a situation where I had no choice but to ask my mother-in-law for help. "Mother-in-law, could you please watch Noelle for a little while today?" I asked. "Why? Don't you usually take her to the shop with you?" she questioned. I have to attend a market event for work today. The venue is too large, and I can't bring her along, I explained. What? She'll start crying as soon as you leave. This is a bit. She hesitated. I'm really sorry. Is there any way you could help? I pleaded. You really are a troublesome daughter-in-law, always causing trouble. She sighed. I'm sorry, really sorry. I apologized to her repeatedly. I felt down in the morning, but I had to accept the situation. I was honestly anxious about leaving Noelle with my mother-in-law, but I wanted to believe she wouldn't do anything terrible to a 4-year-old. I told her I would return as soon as possible and left the house. In the evening, driven by worry, I hurried home. I didn't think anything serious would happen, but I needed to ensure Noelle was safe as soon as possible. I'm sorry I'm back now, I said upon entering the living room. My mother-in-law, engrossed in the television, merely lifted her hand without turning around and continued watching. She probably wanted to focus on her program. I looked around the living room for Noelle, but she was nowhere to be seen. Thinking she might have already gone to bed, I headed to the bedroom. However, Noelle wasn't there either, and I began to panic. I hurriedly rushed downstairs. There, in a place normally used as a storage room, my daughter Noelle was sitting and crying. Noelle! I called out. Mommy! She sobbed. What happened? Why are you here? I asked in shock. Grandma told me to reflect here because I couldn't eat her food, she explained. What? I was stunned by her words. It seemed my mother-in-law had locked Noelle in the cold, dark storage room as a form of discipline because she hadn't eaten her food. Mother-in-law. Why would you do this? How could you lock Noelle in such a place? It's cold, dark, and scary, I exclaimed, my anger rising. This could be traumatic for a child. I felt furious with my mother-in-law. There's no need to make a fuss. She didn't eat the soup I made. Picky eating isn't good, she responded coolly. I heard that the soup was quite spicy, wasn't it? I questioned. Not at all. It's not that spicy, she claimed. I went to the kitchen and tasted the soup left in the pot. It was indeed very spicy, enough to make my tongue tingle. A child can't eat something this spicy, I protested. Stop shouting. Children should eat what is served to them. That's how they learn discipline, she insisted. But even adults can struggle with this level of spiciness, I countered. Why are you yelling like that? The neighbors will hear, she scolded. Just then, my husband Simon arrived home. Usually he sides with his mother, but I believed that seeing our daughter in such a state, he would support me. However, my hope was quickly dashed. Noelle, you shouldn't be picky. Grandma worked hard to make that. Dad is disappointed. Apologize properly and reflect on your behavior, he said. His response left me feeling even more isolated and betrayed in my own home. My mother-in-law and husband were beyond comprehension. This is no joke. How can you feel nothing when our daughter is subjected to this? I can't endure this anymore. Please leave this house immediately. What? Calm down. Why do we need to leave? Because this is my family home. It's only fair that you two leave. I've told you, putting Noelle in the storage was part of her discipline. That's no reason to be kicked out of the house. That's right, exactly as Mom says. Sure, this is your family home, but I'm the one paying the rent. So technically, this house is mine now. You should be the one to leave, actually. The conversation was pointless. My anger had turned to dismay. Fine, I'll leave. And I want a divorce. That's fine. You never respected my mother. I never thought you were such an unreasonable woman. Then, I'll arrange for a formal rental agreement with my father for this house. Fine by me. Right in the center of the city, this large property with a spacious storage area. I thought the rent was high at first, but for $1,000 to have all this is a no-brainer. Mom and I will live here comfortably. My mother-in-law and husband were satisfied to continue living in this house. Incredibly, the matter of divorce didn't seem all that significant to him. The thought that I had spent 5 years married to such a man filled me with rage. And I could not forgive my mother-in-law for neglecting my daughter. If my husband doesn't think it's wrong, then he's complicit. I packed up and left the house immediately with my daughter. It was strange for me to be the one leaving, but I thought it would hurt my husband's pride eventually. My mother-in-law would surely come to regret this as well. As soon as I left the house, I called my father to explain the situation. Simon did what? So, what are you planning to do? I want you to make a rental agreement with Simon. Oh, using that approach? Then he'll have to leave if he doesn't comply. Before I even finished explaining, my father understood my plan. We are family, after all. We understand each other quickly. A month later, I was divorced from my husband and living in a monthly apartment with my daughter. After the divorce was finalized, I took the documents my father had prepared and went to see my ex-husband and former mother-in-law. Ah, you've come. Is that the contract? My ex-husband asked. Yes, it is, I replied. I was led up the front steps of the house by my former husband and mother-in-law. It was a strange feeling being guided into my own house. Sitting on the living room sofa, I placed the documents my father had prepared on the table. My ex-husband picked up the documents and began to read through them. He quickly pointed out a supposed mistake. Hey, this is wrong. The rent is listed as $10,000. Oh, really? I can't believe such a mistake, I said, pretending to be surprised as my ex-husband and former mother-in-law looked at me coldly. Yes, the rent is indeed $10,000. There is no mistake, I countered calmly. What? Stop joking. The rent was supposed to be $1,000. Are you trying to kick us out by setting such a high rent? I'm not falling for that. This contract is invalid. Don't be ridiculous. Bring a correct contract. My ex-husband seemed triumphant, believing he had seen through my scheme. However, unfortunately for him, there was no mistake in the documents, and I had indeed prepared them seriously and accurately. There is no mistake. This building includes the entire large property, and the first floor is not a residence but houses commercial tenants. It's common for commercial tenants to pay higher rent than residential tenants. When combined, the rent amounts to $10,000. Moreover, this is a central city location. That is the going rate for tenant fees in this area. What? Don't mess around? We're only renting the residential part upstairs. We have some stuff on the first floor, but we'll clear it out soon. That's not possible. My father stated that if he rents this place out, he will do so as a whole, not separately. If there were casual residents upstairs, it would reduce the interest of anyone wanting to rent the commercial space on the first floor. We were able to use this house previously because of my relationship with my father. Now that we're divorced and essentially strangers, there's no more special treatment. From now on, you'll need to pay the market rate for rent." "What? The rent has been $1,000 so far, hasn't it? Why?" "No, mother-in-law. Actually, the rent has been zero until now. My father allowed me to use it for free. Essentially, it was as if I was not paying any rent. I was supposed to pay him $10,000 annually for property taxes. In a way, that could be considered the real rent. Zero rent? That can't be right. You said the rent was $1,000. That was not true. I said that because I thought your pride would be hurt if you knew you were living here for free. Actually, I saved all the $1,000 you thought you were paying as rent. I also contributed $1,000 each month, saving a total of $2,000 monthly. We continued this for 10 years with the plan of eventually buying this house from my father. This way, everything would be settled transparently, and you would be satisfied. However, there's no need for that anymore. So please leave this house immediately. You can't afford to pay $10,000 a month, can you?" "Wait a minute. We can't just leave suddenly like that." "Well, you can give us a 2-month notice. In that case, you will need to pay 2 months' rent, totaling $20,000. Is that acceptable?" Ah. Realizing the contradiction in her own statements, my mother-in-law fell silent. "If you cannot pay the rent, please leave. If you do not, I will call the police." That's harsh. My ex-husband and former mother-in-law were trembling and looking down. Eventually, they decided to leave the house. They quickly packed their belongings and moved to an apartment. I had instructed them to vacate within 2 weeks by the end of the month, and they did as instructed. I warned them that staying even 1 day longer would result in an additional charge of $10,000 in rent, which seemed to motivate them. My ex-husband and former mother-in-law have already sold their house and are now living in a cramped apartment. They thought they could take the house from me and lived a lavish lifestyle, purchasing many expensive items. As a result, they faced sudden expenses and nearly depleted their assets, forcing them into living meagerly. Furthermore, they also need to pay child support every month, so they can't afford a luxurious living environment. Well, that is a consequence of their own actions, and there is no room for sympathy. Meanwhile, I have moved back into that house with my daughter, and we are living happily. Also, a trusted friend has started a cafe on the first floor, and I help out there occasionally. The cafe also includes a small space for merchandise, where some of the items from my store are displayed. Every day, being enveloped in the rich aroma of coffee is wonderful, especially when there's the scent of freshly baked cakes. Moving forward, I plan to continue living a fulfilling life, prioritizing my daughter while balancing work and personal life.